Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies and TV Shows on the Vault. My name is Steve and with me is
Jay.
and we just got out of John Wick Chapter 3,
Parabellum.
Parabellum. I think it's the only one that has a subtitle to it.
Oh, I
Because
think I
John
know
Wick
this.
Chapter 4 doesn't have one.
And 2 is just 2.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So John Wick Chapter 3 is the third one in the, I guess now, quad. Well, I think they've got two more coming, or one more coming.
They're going to do a 5th one?
Yeah, they got
Oh,
plans
I
for a
didn't know
fifth
that.
one. So yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna call it the John Wick saga from now on.
Okay.
Um, so Jay, so at the end of John Wick Chapter 2, since he's chasing Santino.
Yeah, so he's going after Santino D'Antonio.
And Santino D'Antonio gets to the Continental Steps, and he kind of, basically pleads sanctuary,
Right.
and he puts his arm and puts his hand on.
Well, I think he was
this-
there eating like a
Oh,
dinner.
he's eating
Or breakfast or
Oh,
something.
okay, yeah. So he's eating dinner, eating breakfast, and
He's like, I could stay here forever.
and he's just sort of taunts
Yeah.
John, and then John basically comes out and pulls out a gun
Just
and
shoots him
just
in the
shoots
head.
him in the head. And then I love Winston says, "Jonathan, what have you done?"
Yeah, you could sort of tell like if he had a middle name, he would use it because he's upset with them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. So what? So then, basically, he gets there's, I guess, it's the phone call.
Well, that sort of sets off. So since he killed someone on continental
Middle
grounds, he has to be whatever the excommunicated.
Excommunicado. So at the end of chapter 2,
Right.
he's running because
Right.
Winston basically gives
bends
him
the rules and gives him an hour. Right.
and he calls the I guess the phone company, and it says John Wick excommunicado.
Right.
And then you see, like, apparently everybody in New York is an assassin.
Right.
Because, like, their phones all start to ring, and he's in Central Park, and he's running.
Right.
And
That's sort of where 2 ends.
2 ends, and then 3
Picks off
picks-
pretty much right from there. And
Yeah.
he starts out, he's still running in the city.
Yeah, he's running in the city, and it's in the rain.
Right.
And he basically heads to the library. And what I love about it is when he heads to the library, and as he's heading to the library, you see a homeless man go, change, and then he sees John. He takes out his watch and goes,
Tick
tick tock, Mr. Wick. Because in this world, everyone's either an assassin or
I think he did have a bounty of $14 million.
yeah, that's pretty big.
Right.
So like and what I like about it is and so he goes to the library. He goes to the library. Let me
Right.
get my notes.
Yeah. On the way to the library, he sends his dog off to the hotel.
Hotel, because you can't kill a dog in a
Right.
John Wick movie, because
Right.
unless or if you do, you set him off.
Right.
So he goes to the hotel and
Wait, I think he just sends the dog off in a cab.
in a cab, yeah.
Right.
And then the dog goes into the cab. The cab pulls into the Continental.
Yeah, we
and
don't
the
see
dog
it, but
gets out.
Yeah, we assume he's going to stay with the concierge.
Concierge, Lance Reddick's character. And then basically, so he heads to the library.
Right.
And and I like it. It's kind of like that Page Master library, but a little bit more sophisticated.
It's a giant one.
In
New York City, I'm sure they have giant ones.
Yeah. They got lots of books.
Yeah, and he has a hidden stash hidden in, I think, like a Russian folklore book.
Yeah, and
of like some gold coins
and so I think he is, and he's looking for the gold coins.
And he also gets a medallion.
And he finds the medallion. Okay, so he finds the medallion in the book, and then there's this huge, tall guy, right? And I think it's the same guy from Hustle.
Right.
I don't. But he's like, "Hello, Mr. Wick. I've come to kill
Kill you, and John's
kill
like,
you.
well, I still got, I think for like 30 minutes or
30
something.
minutes or
And
so.
like he's like, well, no one will know.
No one will know." And then he basically beats the hell out of him with a book.
Yeah, he kills him with a library
A
book.
book. I think.
Oh, you're trying to look up what the
I
tall guy
think
was
he
in?
was. I think the tall guy. Yeah. So the guy was Boban Majuric. He's in Hustle
Okay,
with Adam Sandler. That's where you know him from.
gotcha.
So he says, "Mr. Wick, I'm here." And so John basically takes a book. And what do you think of the choreography with the book fight?
I liked him. It's sort of like somewhat similar through lots of fights in movies where they sort of like stopped trying to be like super serious and they added some humor. I
Yeah.
think,
Do you feel like this one they kind of went like, let's get kind of well, I think this movie they went and said, let's get a little bit crazy, but not extreme, because I think if it's extreme it'd be too cartoonish. They made it
Right.
more they made it cartoonish, but they
they're
set
still
it
like
in,
super violent and like
they set it in
brutal.
reality.
right, but it still has some like cartoonish elements to it, which
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. It kept it a lot more fresh to me.
Yeah. And so anyway, and I like how he fights him, and so he fights him and he wins.
Right.
John beats the giant pretty
Right.
much. It's like me taking on you, Jay.
Yeah. I think after that he tries. He has like a tiny bit more time. He runs to the key master.
The key master. So
Right.
so the doctor who we see in the first movie, where he's like, take these pills.
Right.
He's basically, and I guess we never did. We mention he was a key master.
We just
Yeah.
like right then, but
So-
we didn't say it's like from the Matrix.
Yeah, he was, but he was the so he goes to and he's like got
I think like 5 minutes.
5 minutes before he's excommunicado.
Right.
And he's like, come on, Doc, Doc, and he's like, looking at the clock, and the Doc is like trying to stitch him up, and then ding dong,
He runs out of time.
and he runs out of time, and then he's like, so he just says, he pulls out just hit me right, shoot me in the arm. We'll make it look
right,
like
yeah.
we'll make it look like an accident.
Well,
And
I
then-
think
or it was an accident, or
no. So even though he stops at the time, he doesn't think anyone will believe him. So he gets John to shoot him.
Yeah, John
to make
to
it
shoot
look
him.
he forced him.
Forced him to help him. Yeah, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then, shooting. Yeah, and so he so he shoots him, and then he runs off to a
He runs into like this sort of like
antique shop.
Antique shop.
Yeah,
And
well,
while on the way there, he's sort of like a gang of assassins.
a
sees
gang
him.
assassins see him, and they have this awesome knife fight.
Yeah, so
you want
they're-
to talk about the knife fight real quick?
Yeah, so they're pretty much in like. Pretty much ends up being like a mirror and like knife warehouse. So there's like just glass breaking everywhere, and
Yeah.
like they keep just chucking knives at each other.
And there's one guy, I think, because we watched this in like 2 days. Well, he starts throwing the knives at him, and he
Right.
just keeps moving and moving, or starts to take some of the knives out. One of the bodyguards.
Yeah. So there's sort of like a sort of them like they sort of just have a prolonged knife fight.
Yeah.
They end up sort of like moving on to like different weapons. Then they start like having a fights with like these hatchets.
Oh, the hatchets.
Yeah.
And like what I liked about the hatchets is it's not the way it's shot isn't bloody enough.
You want more?
Or
blood,
no,
Steve?
not bloody enough, but wasn't as violent as I guess with a hatchet. It could have been a lot more.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, probably didn't need to be more gory.
Gory,
It was-
yeah. Because then I think you get into like a horror kind of
Yeah.
feel to it. So Jay, what was your thoughts like the first part of? Do you feel like when you're watching it between 1, 2, and 3, like back to back, it feels like it's a cohesive.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I feel like these movies, like, pick up almost like right off. The other ones leave off.
Yeah. And so so he fights off the guy with the hatchet.
Right.
And then
he sort of runs out and then to like sort of like a carriage garage for like the horse.
Oh
carriages.
gosh. So let's talk about that scene.
Yeah.
So basically, he goes into
sort of like the horse stables.
The horse stables, and he like finds this horse, and he gets on the horse just the way John Wick does, because he's just awesome. And he gets on the horse, and he's riding it, and as he's riding it through like the city, and then these like 4 bikers show up, and they have this awesome chase. And what I liked about the chase was I liked how like we get to see the drivers, the bikers, kind of like, the bikers sort of come after John in kind of like a V shape, and then kind of exit out, and then like one of them hits a car door.
I can't remember exactly what with the horse chase scene,
but so like what I like about it is like there's a horse chasing, and then there's a fight with the horse.
Yeah, like before he gets on the horse, like he sort of like has.
So
then he sort of like slaps the horse butts and it kicks
the guy. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then they have they have a carriage horse run, and where he's on a horse, and motorcycles chase him, and then he like kind of goes through a tunnel with that, and then he ends up finding the Russian ballet.
Right, and these are it's another criminal organization. I think it was the Ruska Romov.
And she is I think her cover is ballet teacher.
Yeah, they're sort of like running this ballet school, and this is like who raised John.
Right. Okay, that's
like a.
Is this his mother, or is that?
No, I think that's who he's like an orphan, and like he was raised by them. I think.
But okay, because it doesn't. You don't really get that much of his past, or his like childhood past. What do you think of the way this one feels versus the second one? I mean we can kind of more go into detail once we finish the review, but like what was your kind of the way, or I guess your kind of thoughts on? Because I like it just was a little bit different.
Yeah, I think I ended up liking this one more than the second one.
I feel like this one, watching it back to back, gives it clarity. Like I feel like if you watch it, if you like flip it on TV, you have to go, okay, what happened in the second one?
Right.
This one you kind of have to when you watch them together as a trilogy, if we will, then it's makes it more sense. But so he goes to the ballet teacher, and she uses the ballet as a front for the crime organization, and she basically says that, and what I like about it is, John, you've been here for centuries, you've been here for decades, not even, I've raised you and kind of and then what I like about the ballerinas is they all have tattoos. Like, but she's also very like one of them like twirls and then like falls, and she's like, get up again.
Yeah, so it's like super brutal. And you can see them like peeling off their
toenails and skin and stuff like that. Which I probably my cousin Beth is a ballerina. She'd probably be like, yeah, that's probably accurate.
No, I've heard it's pretty hard on your feet.
Yeah, and then.
So John Wick is sort of come over there because like the whole city's after him, and he needs a way to get out.
Yeah.
And so like he sort of burns his remaining ties with the Ruska Roma.
Yeah, in her office.
Right, and that's sort of like he gets branded.
So he cuts his finger. Or does he have to get?
No, that's
before. That's coming up. So he she takes like I think it's this logo of the continent, not the
It's
continent.
just a crucifix.
Crucifix. It's a crucifix.
Yeah.
And if you remember
He's got
in the
a big
back
back tattoo.
tattoo, so he gets so he lays on his stomach or in a chair on his stomach, and she says, you have to be branded, and she brands him
Yeah.
on the
back.
on the back.
And that's sort of somebody that he tore his ticket, and so now he's like, that's sort of like their last remaining favor they're gonna do.
Okay, and then I liked how what do you think and I liked how it's sort of that kind of ballerina or how I like how in this one, how in Fight Club
Right.
when he's at the restaurant and he's got that bloody black eye,
Right.
and then the waiter has like the broken nose.
Right.
This kind of not in that sense, but in a sense of it sort of being very much like, oh yeah, there is like this whole world of like underground world of assassins,
Right.
kind of thing.
And so now John sort of gets passage to Morocco to go
Morocco.
to Casablanca.
So John, and so he gives him the, does he talk to the Bowery King first?
No,
No,
I don't think so. I can't remember.
let's see. Theater in the room where he has passage and gets branded. And can
Okay.
never
Oh,
come
okay. I
home.
know you're
But he can never come home again.
Right.
And then
So like
the-
simultaneously while
so-
all this going on, there's like the high table
tables-
is like investigating
John Wick's killing of
Santino.
Santino.
Right.
And so she goes over. What do you think of the Santino? I mean,
The adjudicator.
the adjudicator, and the adjudicator kind of has that. She kind of reminds me, kind of talking about it now and watching it, as like that prefect in Harry Potter,
Right.
or like that kind of like, you broke the rule, like the rule like finger wagger kind of thing.
No, I liked her. I like she, because they sort of like pushed on time, so they can't delve too much into her backstory,
Right.
or anything. So I just sort of like I liked her style. Like it just sort of seemed like she was from like the assassin corporate headquarters.
Yeah,
like,
she's
kinda
kind of like, well, this is how we're supposed to do it. But I did kind of like her, but she was very much. But what I like about her is how, but I like how both, the Bowery King and Winston, when they talk to her, they're like, like you're like, yeah, you think you're high, you think you're high and mighty, but especially the Bowery King's like, down here, I rule things, and
And so this sort of cutting back to John Wick sort of makes it to Casablanca.
and he
gets
he
to, like,
does he go to Casablanca? He goes to in the second one. He meets the homeless man, and the homeless man says, "Take me to the Bowery King."
Right.
And this one, he talks to the Bowery King before he goes to Casablanca.
No. He doesn't-
Okay, so he goes to Casablanca.
Right.
While he's at Casablanca, he basically is. He's like walks in the desert.
Well,
Or no, he doesn't walk in the desert.
No, he first has to talk to Halle Berry.
Okay, no, okay. Let me rephrase that. So, enter Halle Berry.
Right.
Jonathan Kemp meets up with the manager of the Continental in Morocco,
Halle Berry.
continent, who's Halle Berry. Halle Berry plays Sophia, and apparently they have, both John and Sophia have bad blood. And
Well, so John's pulling what Santino did to him last movie, and he's like calling out a marker on Sophia. So now Sophia has to help John.
Yeah, and what do you what do you think of? And Sophia, she has these like two Rottweilers. Or
Right,
do you want
two
to
dogs.
talk about Sophia real quick, or do you want to?
Yeah, we can talk. Yeah. So
Sophia, and then we'll get into John's relationship with Sophia.
yeah, so Sophia sort of mixes up in the assassin, skill, where she has like sort of two dogs
and
that
she's
fight with her.
and she is the she's the Winston of the Continental
In Morocco.
and Morocco.
Or Casablanca, yeah.
Casablanca, and she basically says that she basically is like, John, what are you doing back here?
Yeah, I think she like immediately just like shoots him.
Yeah. What are you doing back here? And then she's like, and then she pulls out her gun.
Because and then John's like, you can't kill me. I have your marker. So I just
yeah,
shot you.
Yeah. I didn't. I shot. Yeah, and then she's like going, and then I guess.
I think their whole John gets her to take him to the guy that makes the coins.
Okay, let's talk about their relation, like, because they kind of they look like they've had a past,
right?
And that they might have been an item, but not really. More of maybe like a.
But I think
more of a business relationship.
Yeah, I think there's more. So John helped her get free her daughter.
Free her daughter, right? Right. And she basically says, and this is like the first time I've seen Halle Berry in a movie, because this came out 2017. I think I haven't seen her in a film since like 20 The Call in 20
okay, I haven't seen
14 or something like that. Anyway, I kind of like I like their chemistry,
right? Because Halle Berry is willing to help, but she's like pissed at John.
Yeah. And she's like, and John is like,
she has to help.
She has to help him, but what I like about it is when she's in Morocco. These guys are chasing. Right. They're chasing her, or they wait. What happens first? Do they chase them, and then she goes to the does the debt with the finger?
Yeah, that happens first. Yeah, so they go to
the finger first happens.
No, the finger's at the end.
So okay, sorry about this, guys. So the okay, let's see.
So they go to this the guy that makes the coins, this goldsmith.
Yeah, goldsmith. And the coinsmith kills Sophia's dog.
Well, he just shoots him.
Yeah, she shoots. The
dog had a vest on.
Okay, yeah, because you can't kill after you kill John.
You can't kill too many dogs.
Yeah, you can't kill in this universe. So the dog has his vest on.
But Halle Berry is super mad.
Kills. So she's pissed. This starts Sophia on a killing. So she just gets out her gun and starts shooting everybody.
Right.
Then they have a really, and it's a really good shootout. And what I like about this film is these films is they make guns look so fine. I would, don't you think? Like just the gun, the way, like in the first one,
right?
When he's like going, or the second one where he's like going, I've got a dinner date. And they're like, "What are we gonna do for this?"
For the second one,
they like kind of they make weapons sexy in a way. I wouldn't say sexy, but inviting in a way.
Yeah, but I guess with the Halle Berry's character, I guess the twist is that she has her dogs helping her.
Yes, yeah. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So she's in Morocco, I think in the Continental. Is she in the Continental Morocco?
During the fight, no, they're at this sort of foundry place.
The foundry place.
Yeah.
And she's got her dogs, and she's got she's like strapped,
right?
And she's got pistols on one side, and but she's also got AK-47 machine gun.
I think they're cycling through guns.
Yeah. Just like a video. I mean, it's kind of like watching somebody play a video, or not play a video game, but just watching the movie of a video game,
right? And so it's sort of somewhat, is sort of where they throw in some comedies, like the dogs, frequently go after people's nuts.
Yeah, and then they went and they kind of bite one of them in the leg.
Yeah, and they sort of are super coordinated fighting together.
Yeah, and I like that fight because you kind of knew everything was getting going, and then they go travel the desert. Then the Sophia. Okay, so
Sophia and John make their escape. And they steal a Jeep and they drive off into the desert.
They drive off into the desert, and then Sophia basically they've got a jug of
water.
one bottle of water, and Sophia drinks the whole thing.
Well, no, she gives most of it to her
dogs. Yeah, and then she drinks the last sip
and just spits in like half a sip for John.
And she says, "Start walking." And so John basically says, "Really, really, you gonna do that?"
I don't think he says that.
Well, no, but that's what I kind of think Keanu Reeves would. Yeah, you know. But he's like, he has that look of like, and so he walks and walks and walks till his feet hurt, and then he passes out.
Right.
And then these people find him.
Right. I forget what it's like.
Hold on. I got it in the thing.
Assassin Emperor.
Winston. They talk about John saved Sophia's daughter. Okay.
I think you're down a bit more.
In Casablanca. Okay. The Coinsmith.
No, we're already past the. He's in the desert, so it's the elder.
Okay, the Bowery.
Rescued by the.
John is rescued in the desert by the elder, and the elder tells him to kill Winston.
Yeah, it's the only way he can become not
excommunicado, and John has to. Oh gosh, and John basically puts his hand on the table. And he has to cut off it. He chops off his finger.
Right, and then he has to.
His wedding ring. He gives up his. Oh, he gives up his wedding ring. Right. Is that what it's? What the ring is?
Symbolizing like he's giving up
that life and that whole life.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Moroccan scenes?
I like that. That's another reason that I sort of like this movie. Is sort of like.
They kind of make it more international.
Well, not just the scenes sort of are very like there's a lot more variety.
Well, there's a lot more color.
Right.
Well, I mean, like
as they change locations, they'll change
color palette. You know, like if you look at even at the the posters, the first one's kind of got that blue, like that kind of turquoise sky blue feel.
Right.
And then the second one, in like the film itself, has kind of a bluish purple, and this one's purple, you know, as the posters look.
Right.
But this one, you know, I think it's just a lot more brighter. You know, you can see things, you know.
Right.
And I like right. What I liked about let's get back to the plot.
So like John's sort of gone all this way to find the elder to get back, like to make it so everyone's going to stop killing him.
And so he goes to
and then sort of while sort of like cutting back to the other side of the story, the adjudicator sort of gone around
and kind of like says, "Where you've helped John, and
now you've got to pay.
And so he goes to. So she first goes to Winston or the Bowery King.
Yeah, she's talked to Winston, the Bowery King, and the Ruska Romov, and then like they're all sort of talking. But then she sends her ninjas.
Okay. So she goes to Winston, but she doesn't. We see each one, right?
Right.
So she goes to. Let's go with Winston first.
Right.
So she goes to Winston, and let's see. She goes to Winston and she's like going, "You let John escape."
Right.
And he's like, "Don't put," and the way, what's the actor, the guy that played Winston? He's just so sophisticated in the way he's just like, don't put this on me.
Right. And so she tells him that he has to step down.
Yeah, and he's like going, "Screw you, woman! I ain't gonna step down."
Doesn't say that yet.
But that's his plans. Yeah. Right. Okay.
And he comes back to the Bowery King and they pretty much take out his guards, and what did they say? 7 cuts for 7 bullets.
7 cuts for 7 bullets, and I like how but that's okay. Let's talk about the Bowery King,
right?
Because that scene is so he's got the pigeons, and he says, right, "I've got eyes and ears all over." And the thing about what's interesting about Lawrence Fishburne, and I think we probably talked about this in John Wick Chapter 2. Is that, and I might mention, so forgive me if I've already mentioned this in the second one, but when he's Morpheus, he talks so much slower,
right,
and so much kind of quieter.
Right.
And in this one, he's like, John Wick, And I feel like in this scene, he's basically talking to John, or he's like, he's going, he just the way he like talks to the adjudicator and how he's like, yeah, this is my territory.
Right.
You can't, I down here I am the power, I am king.
Right.
The Bowery king, I've got he talks about the pigeons being his internet eyes and ears. And she's like, and I like it because he kind of, I like her as a villain, but when you see her with John Wick, with not John Wick, with the Bowery King, he kind of puts her in her place in a way.
I love that. He says all that, and then all his people die.
Yeah,
and he gets chopped up.
Well, okay.
He sort of bites too much than he can chew.
Yeah, that's what I was. Well, I bit that off, and you can chew the rest.
Yeah.
Jay.
I don't know. I'd say she puts him in his place.
She puts him in his place. I'm sorry. I think if we watched it all together, we watched this in like 2 parts, 2 sittings.
Yeah.
So,
and sort of the same thing happens with the Ruska Romov, where the adjudicator sends a hit squad to.
And I think she sets the guy with the sword.
It's Zero.
So the adjudicator sends Zero to talk to the ballet teacher, or the ballet teacher.
Right.
And
her price to show fealty, she gets stabbed through the hands.
So she's like, and what I like what she does is she basically puts her hands like this,
like
and then Zero takes the sword and puts it straight through her hand.
Right.
And then let's see.
And I think that's sort of the price people like those, because those are the people that help John.
So basically, because they help John, they have to pay the price. Yeah. Okay. So then, what I love is John. So John is rescued. So he's rescued by the elder, right?
Right.
And he gets his finger. So,
Chopped off.
but he after he kind of regains his strength, they said, John, you need a new suit. And he's like saying, we tailored this for you.
Yeah, I think they had like a suit out in the desert for him.
Yeah, that's what I was. What was your thoughts on I like the desert scenes. I thought that was it kind of freshened it up.
Right.
This one.
Right.
And then
so like after he sort of like to get back from being excommunicado, he has to go kill Winston.
So
but the contract's still open
for John
until he does that.
Okay.
So he gets back to New York and is immediately chased by, I think, Zero's gang.
That's the
bike scene.
Okay, so let's talk about the bike. That's the one with the horse.
Yeah. Well,
no, that's not the horse.
No, he steals a bike too. So they have a motorcycle sword fight.
Yes. Okay. So they have a motorcycle. So like, what I like about it is he gets the bike and his men, and then Zero's men, but like you can kind of see like there's like it's like a V kind of thing.
Riding in formation,
and he's like ahead of John is on the bike ahead of him, and like one of the guys is like the doors open, and it kind of has that same scene in the first one where if you remember the bike scene. Where when he gets his car back, the second one.
Right.
When he gets his car,
he opens the door,
and the bike flips.
Right.
I liked that scene.
That was a great scene.
And I liked how it was just sort of cool how they
It's just sort of like, you think sword fights are cool, you think motorcycles are cool.
Put them together. What do you got? A John Wick scene, pretty much.
Right.
And then
so like John pretty much kills off all the minions except for Zero. Right then.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like they're fighting until John. I think they wreck together, and John barely puts his hand onto the Continental.
And then I think Lance Reddick. No, is it Lance Reddick?
Yeah, Lance Reddick is like stop, because Zero's about to kill John.
And it's like, come on,
no violence or no business.
Violence, no business is supposed to be on the Continental. So they say, come on, we're going. Okay, that's where
the manager wants to see you.
Manager wants to see you. So they're like, fine. So they walk up there, and they're sitting there waiting to talk to the manager.
Right.
But I love it is that Zero basically says, and it doesn't feel like it broke the fourth wall, but I feel like it brings that winkiness to the series,
right?
Where, because in this one we don't see Jimmy, the cop.
Oh, right.
But I think how like even Jimmy, but that kind of like took the place of it.
Yeah, but
well, I mean a little bit, but like
sort of like
because he's like going, John, it's such a great
he's
like you kind of think
like
they're sitting
biggest
there.
Fan or something.
Yeah. Well, like he's sitting there and he's like talking to you think he's gonna be like, how dare you, they get into this like thing, but it's like I'm your biggest fan,
Right.
I've seen you fight. That's
it's like kind of like a giant like celebrity crush.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of that scene or the line from Home Alone where he says, "Harry, that was amazing." Because if you remember in Home Alone, he basically I twisted my ankle over there, right. And that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of broke the tension a little bit, but but I think that's the thing about these movies is they go bizarre, kind of like in the Fast and the Furious films, where they're just like, screw it, we'll go to space or whatever.
Right.
So they have this conversation, and it does remind me a little bit like the second one when he and Common are kind of like drinking at the Continental, but but Zero's a lot more energetic about it.
Right.
And so basically.
So then John goes and talks with Winston, and then Winston, is like, what are you gonna do, John? Are you gonna kill me, or are you gonna join with me? So basically, he's like, I remember what he says exactly. He's like, kill me and always be
running,
or no, kill me and always and die as a servant to the high table, or die as a free man.
Die as a free, yeah, exactly, and So going to war with we talked about you just talked about the die as the Boogalooga.
Oh, the Baba
Yaga. Whatever.
The Boogalooga.
Boogalooga. I can't. Okay, anyway. The man who loves. Okay, yeah. So then we start getting the fight, or we build up to the fight in the hotel.
Right. And so
Winston, I mean, it does. The film does sort of. You think? I think once the bike fight, the bike chase happens, then the film starts to pick up.
Right.
Because I feel like that's when we started watching today.
Right. And so the adjudicator comes and sort of is very formally asking John, are you going to kill Winston?
Yeah, and
John's like, no.
No.
Winston, are you going to step down?
And John's and Winston's like, no. And then she's
like, okay.
Okay.
And she makes a phone call and is like,
put a bounty on John and Winston.
Yeah, pretty much. And deconsecrates the hotel.
And he's like, and what I love about it is once it's deconcentrated, he's like, I always kind of feel like Winston would be a great, in the Hunger Games, where he says and may the odds be ever in your, just how he would say that would be so sweet. But what I love about it is Winston's just all right, let the games begin. And then they
retreat to his
bunker,
man cave lounge area.
Yeah, man cave lounge area with Lance Reddick.
Lance Reddick, yeah.
Because I can't remember his Sherlock. I can't remember. Anyway, Lance Reddick, and they and there's that line where he goes, "So Jonathan, what do you need?" And if you remember in the Matrix, at the beginning in the Matrix movie, he says, "So what do you need?" Trinity asks Neo, "Guns, lots of guns."
Right.
And so I like that little
Yeah.
And then if you think about it too, is when we get to the fight, it's all in green, which it kind of reminds me of
Right, and then
the Matrix.
they send sort of the high table sort of like SWAT forces, which sort of reminds you of like the one fight scene at the is it a bank where they're trying to rescue Morpheus? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Or some office building.
The office building, yeah. And I think it was a bank. It was cool. That's all that matters. And then so all the guards come. Well, all the guards come in, and but what I love about it is he's like, they start playing classical music, and he's like going, when talk to war, as since we're talking about John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, he says, Parabellum.
Right.
And the safe locks, and John and Winston gear up to shoot for a good old shoot down firefight. So let's talk about the firefight. What do you think?
I liked it. Sort of has it like sort of have like the hotel had like turn off the lights and have sort of like neon sort of like laser
tag kind of What I liked about it too is I think the classical music that they play, like I think that's the good thing with the scene, like when you see, and I think there's something, if you kind of look after watching all the John Wick films, it's an elegant action film series.
Right.
If you think, because just in the way they talk about, like that scene in the first one when he goes to the when he's getting when he's getting the suit and weapons, and the weapons is sort of like, what are you gonna do for dinner?
Oh, the second one.
Second one. What do you Oh, precise.
Right.
That kind of thing, and I think that's what made it so. There's something elegant with like that scene, because the music starts playing, they get their guns, and then we see a shootout, and it's I think it makes it fun, or makes it like a sophisticated shootout. In not only like a film way, but the way it's sophisticated, just with the music and the lights, and it's not as and the guards do, as I say, the guards do look like from the Matrix, and it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of like the twist in this one is like the guys are like in full bulletproof armor.
Yeah,
so like they sort of have to like go around, and John mostly has like shoot them in like under the helmet and stuff.
Yeah. So and I like how, and then what I love is so both Lance Reddick and John Wick, pretty much they take down everybody. Well, John does most of the work, but Lance kind of is his backup. And Winston, I love it. Winston is he's sitting in the
vault.
Yeah. He's got a bottle of brandy, like a glass of brandy or Cavassier, and he's like, let the games begin, and just sits there while everybody goes,
right.
That kind of thing. So I like the action. I think this was a lot. They changed it up a little bit. The action, it's not as fast, or not as. I mean, it's not as, I wouldn't say fast, but it's not. Well, if you remember in the first one when they're at the pool, and he takes out Vincent's.
Oh right,
his nephew,
right,
and how like that has like more of that club music, and then that sort of sauna music, and I think music can kind of really make it into something.
Right.
So anyway, they have a fight with the guards.
Right, and they sort of kill a bunch of guards, and sort of the last guard, John sort of throws into like this like sort of like pool area.
And okay, let's talk about the pool scene.
Yeah.
So they go to they fight John Camp. Okay, let's see, because I made notes. So they go in the pool, and as they're fighting, they have a gunfight in the pool.
Yeah, underwater.
Underwater, and I guess I don't know the real physics of it. I don't think a gun can really actually.
Well, see,
shoot
John
in the water.
like sort of like swims away for a second. The other guy like shoots all of his bullets
in the water, and you can kind of see the the bullets
slow
down, and it kind of maybe because this guy that directed the John Wick films was a secondary action coordinator for The Matrix.
Okay.
So that kind of does
yeah.
Make it kind of its own thing.
Yeah, and then John swims over real close and then shoots the guy.
Yeah, and and I thought that was a pretty cool
right.
I think to make it sophisticated.
Right, and then sort of John gets up out of
or
the
not
water.
Sophisticated, but make it real. I won't say realistic, but like without bullet time,
Right.
So he gets out of.
Yeah, that's true. That was a little nod to bullet time.
Yeah.
So then John sort of comes up out of the water, and there's like another guard like with a gun like right at him. He's about to get shot, and then Zero stabs the guard.
Because Zero's like, he's
only
mine.
I can kill him.
Yes.
He's sort of like up there with like a cartoon villain now.
Yeah, he's like
only I can kill John Wick.
We're not in like Austin Powers where he says, "We're not so different, you and I."
Yeah, and I think he does say that too. Like we're the same.
We're the same. Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So, and what I like about it is, but I think that's the thing about John or Zero is that because Zero, we already talked about Zero being like, oh my gosh, this fanboy, right?
Yeah, you sort of tell there's like something's not all the way right with him.
Yeah. Zero's he's kind of like he's a fanboy supervillain,
right.
I guess. Kind of like.
I thought it was a pretty good twist.
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked how he did it when he's like, I love how how he's kind of like they start looking at each other, and it kind of, like I said, that scene does remind me of like when Common and in the second one,
right?
But it is a twist on that one if you think about it,
right?
Let's see.
So now John has sort of fought off all the normal guards, and now he's back fighting Zero and his like sort of ninja assassin.
Okay, and so. And so they're still in the Continental.
Right, but now they move into the fancy glass
room.
Glass.
Okay, let's talk about the glass.
It's sort of like, I don't know. I guess like where they get back to the comedy, like, because John's been like thrown through like so many windows before.
Yeah, and like
what if we have
this one is like
windows?
yes, and like
John thrown through a window like every 3 seconds.
Yeah,
He's, like, thrown through a window.
And like one thing I looked at it with the window scene is like it reminds me, it's taking it from the second one, the glass room, the mirror museum. But I think with the mirror museum, it kind of was a lot more, wasn't as it wasn't as pulse spiting.
Right.
Whereas this one, people were you just see them throwing, like the men are throwing themselves out of like glass cases.
Right. And it sort of felt somewhat like like an old school like kung fu, like where you have to like fight all the students before you fight the master.
Did you ever see Enter the Dragon?
Yeah.
You know how Enter the Dragon, there's that mirror.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, I think there was like, but it was kind of a nod to that.
Yeah, and so John sort of like pretty much gets beat up a whole bunch by the students until eventually like besting them slowly. And then has a pretty good fight with like I guess two of the top students.
Yeah.
Where like the top students could have easily killed John, but they stopped. Sort of.
Yeah, and they go like it's not and I think John's got I guess
like
in
code of honor too.
Code of honor with this
thing,
and like just fall down. It's kind of like look, but it's not that since it's more like respectful versus it's like going. Because like the thing I like about the John Wick films too is that there's not a lot of punning.
Right.
There's not a lot of, I'm gonna put dirt in your eye or anything like,
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Stop it, ice. They fight him, and I like what'd you think of the fights? Do you think this one's like comparing this? Well, we'll get into it a little bit later, but. What'd you think of the fighting with like I mean, I thought it kind of worked. Kind of reminded me of the mirror fight with in the second one.
Right.
But this one was, I felt a little bit more. It was cooler.
No, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, he sort of takes out the two, I'll call them knife guys. Like
Yeah.
they're sort of like, and you see them like, and John sort of spares them. I forget what he says, like, I'll be seeing you or something.
I'll be seeing you. And then
he moves on to fighting Zero.
And then Zero, I see. And it's just kind of, and what I like about it is it's his final confrontation with Zero. And it is that kind of like, we get to see kind of like the final battle. Right. And Zero kind of Zero is, did we mention who he's played by?
No, not yet.
Really. Zero is played by, Zero is actually played by Mark Dacascos. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., episodes of Chicago PD. He played Kung Lao in Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that one.
We need to probably get to that one since we did Annihilation. And he was also in Stargate Atlantis, and so he's in a lot of like Chinese kung fu movies. Other than that, he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he was in The Driver and Hawaii Five-0. So he's kind of been, but I think he's a pretty good, show. Like he brought that comedy. Like he wasn't. Yeah. He had a character to him.
No, definitely.
Whereas I felt like Santino or Santino.
Yeah.
Santino was so stiff.
Yeah.
In the second one, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not stiff, but like he didn't have any charisma. I mean, like comparing the Adjudicator to Santino, I would probably choose the Adjudicator. Had just a little bit of like personality.
Yeah.
And he was too sophisticated. But I think what the Adjudicator loses in personality to me, Zero brings.
Right.
That's kind of how I felt about it.
Right.
So anyway, Zero. So where are we?
I guess they're sort of like duking it out.
Yeah, in the glass room.
Yeah, they're sort of up in like the upper floor of the glass room.
And
then,
what did you think of the fights?
I enjoyed the fight, and then Zero sort of almost like at the start of the fight, Zero has a chance to kill John. Sort of stops. He's either like toying with him or just wants to like fight more.
Yeah, and then I think Zero pretty much is having and I like how this camera. I kind of mentioned in my notes that the camera circles around him before I think it's before the fight. But like the fight, and John cuts him.
Yeah, sort of like at the end of the fight, sort of John sort of like cuts his arm and starts like you can tell pretty much John has won the fight.
Yeah, but Zero just keeps coming.
Yeah, and then so John does the same thing. He sort of
I'm not dead.
Did with the students, and I guess also sort of with Common. He sort of like stabs in the heart. Like you either gonna pull the knife out and die and keep fighting, or you can stop.
Yeah.
And sort of John sort of pauses for a second, like are you gonna stop? But Zero doesn't, and so they sort of go into like their final.
I'm not dead.
Final fight, and then John sort of punches the sword through his chest, pretty much.
Yeah, and then John is sitting there after defeating Zero. Zero
sort
gets
like,
up with the sword,
catching his breath.
Yeah, and he catches. And I think Zero brings the limited and I think, but it works comedy. It's not.
It definitely works.
It's not comedy that's like, are you funny? Are you laughing? Are you? But it's just it has its charm.
It's the right amount.
It's the right amount, right?
Yeah. So Zero sort of gets up with the sword through his chest and sort of look like.
It's like
so
I can do this.
And John, looks over to John and is like, "That was a pretty good fight."
That was a pretty fight, yeah. And John's like, and I love the look of Keanu Reeves is like, yeah. Like, I mean, I would probably assume if it wasn't Keanu Reeves, it was somebody else. I could not take him that seriously. I think,
right.
But Keanu Reeves brings something to it where he's just like,
right,
yeah.
And then sort of John gets up and walks, and then Zero's like, well,
Well,
I just gotta catch my breath, but I'll be seeing
see
you.
ya.
And John's like, no.
no, you know.
And he like falls over.
And he falls over. And then we get to
The parlay.
the parlay, which is, that's on roof.
Yeah, it's up on the roof.
So the roof, and then, so you've got Winston. And Winston is just like sitting there going, you know, I am glad you're back. You know, or no, he's not. It's Winston. So Winston and the adjudicator
Or talking
and Sharon and Lance
Reddick.
Reddick.
Yeah.
We're just gonna call him Lance Reddick because we can't remember the name. Are talking on the rooftop of the Continental, and they're going to protect a war. Or
so they're like,
or is it protect a war? Or?
Well, they're trying to like, how are we gonna resolve this? Because like Winston is saying like, I can, you know, it's not just this hotel. I can control pretty much all of New York.
Of New York, and but I like how he does it. Is he's
Right.
so like, because he's like going, you know, she's like, but I mean, I want to talk about, because he kind of like, I want to do all of New York, but the way he does it is he kind of just says. It's the way I guess Ian McShimon says it is so like, you do not know who you're dealing with, but it's so like you respect it.
Right.
Like, it's not like, you know, it's kind of the same lines when you have a character say something like you kind of can believe him versus like when you have an action, you know, like you look at John Cena in The Marine and you look at John Cena and like some other stuff, you're like, okay, he wasn't that great in The Marine, but like, you know what I'm saying, like the way they kind of deliver it.
Right.
And that's the thing I like about Ian McShane is the way he delivers it. It's so like badass, or you know, not badass, but just sort of like kind of this movie is a sophisticated action film.
Right. And then sort of Winston sort of gets the adjudicator degree, like, and just like he was showing his strength. And, like, why he deserves to run the Continental in New York.
Yeah, and she's like,
and so they both she turns like, well, what do we do with John Wick then?
And he's like going, leave him to me.
Winston's like, well, I only see one thing. He has to die.
And then Winston takes out a gun and just shoots John 4 times, and he goes, pew, 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 and
off the building,
and then he falls miraculously. Well, not miraculously, because it's hard. So he falls off the building. He hits a wall, hits a
pipe, and
and then an awning, and then he lands in the trash can.
Oh no, he just lands on the concrete.
He lands on the concrete. Okay, yeah. And then, but it's just like, it is, and then I love how Winston's like, and that's the end of that chapter.
Right.
And kind of dusts his hands off. So Winston is
cleaning up the hotel.
Winston is cleaning, yeah,
and he's sort of like, they're like sweeping up all the bullet casings, and then the adjudicator comes in like, and she's like, John Wick's not in the alley anymore, and Winston's like, that's strange.
That's strange. Like it's like, hey, I shot him. It's not my problem anymore.
Right. I'm sure he couldn't have got far.
Yeah. And she's just like,
well, she's like, well, see to it. He's taken care of. We don't want the Baba Yaga paying us a visit in the night.
But before she makes sure that Wick is really dead and fine. Okay.
And then we cut over to John in like a shopping cart.
Yeah. And I think it's the homeless guy the Bowery guys, who I probably think would be like, tick-tock, Mr. Wick,
right,
from the beginning of the film.
Right.
He's pushing him in a shopping cart.
I think like in the sewers.
Yeah. And he gets to, I guess it's the ending of it.
Yeah, this is like the ending.
So the ending is he gets to so he basically dumps the, John Wick
in front of
the throne of the Bowery King, and we see the Bowery King
is still alive.
Well, I guess I ruined it. Okay. Anyway, so he's still alive, but he's got like a cut on.
He's got like a bunch of cuts all through his face and body. Yeah,
he looks like Mad Eye Moody without the eye and or the hair, but like so he's like, and he starts John, and.
You look as bad as I feel.
You look as bad as I feel. And then, in credits. Or no?
Yeah, well, he's like, and then he sort of gets a little talk with John. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm pissed. They're sort of talking about getting revenge against.
So he's like going, yeah. So which probably leads into the fourth one,
right?
So now that we kind of explained the movie to you guys, what was your what final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I think this, besides maybe the first one, I think this was stronger than 2 for me. I enjoyed the varied action scenes. I did varied fight styles where they're fighting like more with swords, knives. John has a fight with a belt.
I feel
motorcycles, horses.
I feel like 2 felt like, I don't, maybe it's sort of like with 4, like maybe 1 and 2 feels like one movie,
right?
And then 3 and 4 feels like like part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
That's because it's like, because 3 feels complete, like it connects, but it feels completely different than 2.
Right.
Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And
yeah. 3, what I like 3 just because, I mean, I like 2. What I liked about 2 was I like just 2 kind of felt like, what do you do when you strip John of all his weapons and all his stuff, and then he kind of, in 3 he sort of builds that back up.
Yeah.
But what I did like this one. I mean, I feel like she was. I wish she had a little bit more character, but I felt like the
who?
The girl, the
adjudicator.
I mean, she had. I mean, the act, but it's not. I felt like I thought she was a good.
I liked her
Did you like her as an actress, or
I liked her character and her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought she could have for me personally, just a tiny bit of like, I wouldn't say charm, but like, like I know the like, there was something about the villain in the first one,
right?
John, he kind of reminded me of the most interesting man that was like,
right.
And like I felt, but she was. I'd probably put her second, because I felt like Santino.
Oh, Santino
was.
Yeah, he.
I mean, what would you? Would you like? Well, I would probably say the first one was a better villain. Probably the best villain, just because But I also think that was just because the film. I liked because I think that was the first film, and it was just, let's see what we can do with this series. Right. How can we make this into a series? Right. And they did. And then I felt like the third one was, I felt like the second one, the villain was okay, but like and I liked her, but I felt like she was too. There was no like wicked cat. I couldn't like.
Because I don't know if she was even the villain, or she was just sort of like, these are the rules.
Yeah, she might have maybe
the rules.
Maybe she felt more of like, just sort of like, maybe she's just that teacher that you're just like, oh, she's just too strict.
Yeah, she's just sort of like, gotta follow the rules.
Yeah, but I liked the motorcycle scene.
Right.
I thought that was pretty cool. I liked Halle Berry. Right. Because I felt like that was kind of a nice, her and Keanu had a really good chemistry together. Right. And it was kind of nice to kind of like put him in a different situation, like we kind of said in the plot. I liked Lawrence Fishburne, how he had more character in this one than I think he did in the second one. Right. And I mean, especially how he just talked to the adjudicator, how he's just like, bitch, I'm gonna do what I liked this. I feel like these films work as a trilogy. You look at Terminator, and Terminator feels more of like a Terminator feels sort of, I mean, it's, each of them feel different.
Yeah, I think they're all more separate.
They feel like you can watch Terminator 2. Terminator 2 feels like a piece of its own and a sequel at the same time. John Wick feels like, okay, we're one long movie. But I feel like, I think you're gonna find what makes, everyone's, once we see the fourth one, we can kind of go rank them.
Right.
But as a trilogy, as a John Wick trilogy, I would probably say one was probably my favorite, just because,
Okay.
What
was next after one? So you got one first. What's your second favorite
I
so
like
far?
3, maybe 2 or 3 is a tie. But
Okay,
I think the first one was I think it was so fresh.
Yeah, for me, I'd go 1, 3, 2.
3, 2.
My rankings.
Yeah. But like, I give 3, here's, okay, we'll do it how we talked about Scream or Nightmare. So renting, okay, you got, action movie, you got John Wick 3, Die Hard, and Casino Royale.
Okay.
What would you rank those 3? Because you can't really you kind of rank the trilogy as its own, but like, how would you rank? You rip all 3 of them, you bring them home, and you say, okay, Steve, we're gonna watch which. I say, Jay, okay, you rented them. Pick your top. How do you want to watch them? Like, 3 says, your third one is like, I'm interested, but I'm least interested. 2 says, I'm interested, but this isn't my favorite. 1 is like, we're watching this, this is a movie that I'd watch 15 times when I was a kid. I mean, that's the way I'm ranking them.
Oh man, I don't know. I guess if you had Die Hard, this movie, and Casino Royale.
Yeah, where would this or the John Wick trilogy itself?
Oh, the whole trilogy.
Or like Die Hard. If you took the 3 action, basically what I'm saying is you take the three different action film series, for instance. How would you rank those series? Like, which one do you watch first, or like, what would you want to watch first?
Oh gosh, how would you rank them?
Probably, I'd probably do. Okay, let's do it this way. Maybe not Die Hard, because I feel like those are 3. James Bond is a difference. He's not really a secret agent.
Right.
Probably John Wick, Bourne, or I'm trying to think of another action film.
I would rank John Wick over the Jason Bourne.
John Wick over Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd probably do John Wick. I'd probably be more excited to see John Wick.
Yeah.
But I feel like Bourne is a little bit more real. Like, you can tell the difference between not the real, but I mean, like, there's more of a not a fakeness, but a fun, like, there's more of a realism to the Bourne movies. Or,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but yeah, I think that's sort of what puts John ahead of Jason Bourne. It's more
fun.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, more entertaining.
Yeah.
I give John Wick Chapter 3 probably 85. Like,
Okay,
I think I'd probably put John Wick Chapter 1 a little bit higher because it was so fresh.
Yeah.
But, like, as a trilogy, giving it, like, just as a trilogy, we'll see what the fourth one brings. As a trilogy, I give it a 98.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I'd give the trilogy that high, but I'd say it's, up in the 80s. Just, I guess it depends how you look at it. If it was like a movie or like an action movie, this is like way up there. This is like,
okay. As a movie, what would you rate it?
As just like a movie, I don't, maybe 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
That's movie.
Yeah.
As a.
Well, I don't know. It depends.
Yeah, I think it depends on what kind of your movie. Yeah. Let's as a movie, like as a movie in the series, I feel like the third one, it wasn't like, because a lot of 3 movies, when you get to the trilogy, like the first one's good, second one's great, and then the third one they don't try as hard. Okay. But I feel like with the John Wick films, they get better. They at least get as the movies go. They've gotten better and better. Like they haven't. I didn't feel that sense of like, oh, the third one was terrible. I mean, it wasn't like, because I was listening to them talk about Terminator 3, and Terminator 3, and I understand it now, because Terminator 3, people kind of said Terminator 3 was the worst one of the series when it came out.
Right. But
I also kind of think Terminator 3 says, fate is what we make it, and then Terminator 3 says, forget that. And it's completely, arbitrary. But but I don't know. I mean, I put, as a trilogy, I put it next to the Godfather trilogy. Maybe not that high, but maybe fourth or fifth, if you took it to trilogies. Right below Ninja Turtles trilogy.
Right.
So that is our review of John Wick Chapter 3. We'll be back with John Wick Chapter 4 sometime.
Right.
But what's going to be our next... what do you want to do next, Jay?
Guess I'm going to do John Wick Chapter 4 next, probably.
All right. Well, I'm Steve.
And I'm Jay.
And thank you guys. See you at the movies. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Bye.